In this Excel video, we're going to look at the Excel File tab in depth. Let's get started. Now, this is one video in a series on the Excel tabs and ribbons, but this particular tab is different than any of the other tabs that you'll see in Microsoft Excel. Normally, when you click on a tab, let's say the Insert tab, the ribbon changes to reflect and to show the tools and options and features related to inserting. Same with page layout, data, review, etc. But take a look at the File tab. When you click File, the ribbon itself doesn't change. There really isn't a File ribbon. It's just a tab. And when you click the tab, it takes you to what's called the Excel Backstage view. It's a view of all of the important options related to files. For example, creating a new workbook, opening a file, saving a file, exporting, printing, those kinds of things. And also, you'll find important account features and options. So let's get started learning about the Excel File tab. So as you're working in Microsoft Excel, at any point, anytime you feel like you need to or want to, you can click on the File tab to get into the Backstage view. You don't lose your work, there's no impact or loss of your work, so feel free to jump back and forth from your spreadsheet to the File tab and ultimately the Backstage view. When you get to the Backstage view, you'll see that Excel takes you to the Backstage view Home. And this is what it looks like. It gives you some quick options here at the top. You could click to create a new blank workbook, and you're off and running, working in that new blank workbook. I'm going to close that and go back to the File tab and to the Backstage view. In addition to a new blank workbook, you could use one of these pre-made templates. So I could open a Gantt project planner. I could open one of these help files that teaches me different aspects of Excel. I could go to a weekly schedule planner. Now, the options that I see here are kind of customized to me. And so if you don't see the exact same options here, that's okay. Don't worry about it. You should see some other templates or options to choose from. In addition to the templates that you see here and the option for a blank workbook, you should have a link here to take you to more templates. So I'm going to click there, and it gives me several to choose from: a project tracker, sales invoice, timesheet, and so much more. But I can also go up here to this search bar and search for additional online templates. So I'm going to search for family budget, and I get even more options than those that show up in the local downloaded templates. If I like any of these, I can click on the one I like and click Create, and that template now will be downloaded into my version of Microsoft Excel, and it's opened up as a file in Excel, and I can start using this. Again, I'm going to X out of it to get back to the file that I was already working in, and I've gone back into the Backstage view. So I hope that you'll check out the Backstage view and these more templates. You can search for all sorts of templates here. You can even do some suggested searches or even kind of browse through business templates. I could browse through planners and trackers. And there are just all sorts of amazing templates that I can open and download and customize for my own uses. I'll click back because I want you to see that beyond these templates, if I go back to the Home button, below that I have some recommended workbooks that I could open. Now, where did these workbooks come from? These are workbooks that I've opened on my computer in the past. I've recently opened these files. So it's recommending that maybe I want to perhaps work on these files again. Let's say I need to work on this one. I just double click on it. It opens up and I'm able to work on it. And so these recommended for you workbooks are ones that Excel thinks maybe I would like to work on them more at this point. Underneath recommended for you, I can see a list of my recent workbooks, and I can click on any of these to open them up. Now you'll notice next to recent it says pinned. What does that mean? Well, let's say there's an Excel workbook that you're going to use over and over. Maybe you're working on a project that the workbook relates to, and for the next 6 months, you're going to be accessing that workbook over and over. Well, why not pin that workbook? So I'm going to go down here to Nutrients in Food, put my mouse over that workbook, and you'll see that I have an option to share this workbook with another person. But next to that, there is a push pin or a tag, and you can click on it, and now Nutrients in Food will be pinned so that I can easily find it in the future. If I click here on Pinned, you'll notice that it takes me to a list of my pinned workbooks. I have one at this point. There's also a Shared With Me tab that takes me to workbooks that have been shared with me through my email or in other ways. I'll go back to recent, but these are underused features in my opinion. It's such a helpful thing to be able to pin the workbooks that you use most often. At the bottom of this list, you'll notice that there is a link that says More Workbooks. So if you would like to see even more than just your most recent 10 or 12 workbooks, you can click there to get a bigger list. Okay, so that's the Home button on the Backstage view in Excel. It gives you quick access to all of these great workbooks and templates and files. Underneath Home, we have New, and it's just what you would expect. You can click there to begin a new blank workbook. Yes, I can do that here with the Home button, but specifically if you know you want to create something new, just click there on New, and you get that option. It's also bringing up recent other templates I've used, budget templates, Gantt templates, and I could create a new workbook based on those as well. Here, again, I can search for online templates, and so this New button is another way to access some of those same features and options that we have on the Home button. Now, beneath Home and View, I have the Open button, and by clicking there, it takes me to various locations on my computer or on the internet where I can store my workbooks, and also I can open my workbooks from these locations. So here's one option. This is my OneDrive account, so I can click there, and it shows me several folders that are in my OneDrive account, and I can just double-click to open those folders, and then I can select a workbook that I want to double-click on and open up. I'll exit out of that and go back to the Backstage view by clicking the File tab. So like I said, the Open button gives me easy access to lots of different locations that I may want to open workbooks from. In addition to some of these online locations, I can also choose this PC, and that lets me browse my computer or search my computer for workbooks that are on this computer that I could open up. I can also browse this computer, so it's just another way to browse my PC to find workbooks that may be on it. If you would like, you can also add another place to make it easier to save and open Office documents to the cloud. So if you use Box, or you have another OneDrive account, or OneDrive for Business, or some of these other options, you can select those options, log into those accounts, and you'll be able to easily and quickly open workbooks from those locations as well. Okay, now that we've looked at these three buttons in the upper left, let's move on to some of the other options and features that you get in the Microsoft Excel Backstage view. Notice that we have a button here to get add-ins, and there are other ways to get add-ins in Microsoft Excel. You don't have to do it through the Backstage view, but it's a good way. So you can just click Get Add-ins, and it takes you to the Office Add-ins dialog box. You can see that it's giving me a list of all available add-ins sorted by popularity. So here's one, the Wikipedia add-in. You could also choose a different category. So I just want educational add-ins. Wikipedia is still at the top there. And then I could also search if I wanted to. But I'm just going to go ahead and click Add, and it's going to add the Wikipedia add-in into my version of Microsoft Excel. And I can access it here at the right. Going back to the File tab and the Backstage view, in addition to getting more add-ins, you can also go to My Add-ins, and it will list all of your add-ins, and you can choose to remove any of the add-ins that you no longer want. So that's important to also know about. I'm going to click on File again to go into the Backstage view. Let's look at Info. If you click on Info, it gives you some nice buttons that you can use to upload your current workbook to a specific location. Maybe, in my case, a OneDrive account, but it could be a Box account or another option. You can also click this button to share your workbook. You can copy the path of the workbook, the local path. You can open a file location. Most of these options you can get to in other ways in Microsoft Excel. You can also protect the workbook. There's all of these different options. And again, you can get to these options on other tabs. Here's an important option, check for issues. I could inspect this document. I could check for accessibility. This will help people that might find it difficult to read. It will alert me to some of the changes I might want to make. You can also check compatibility to make sure that this workbook will be accessible with earlier versions of Excel. So check for issues could be very important depending on your audience and how you're using Excel. We also have a version history button. If you click that, you can upload your file and Office will save versions of your file as you work, like it says here. So I would have to upload this file to one of my online locations, and then it would continue to save a version history. Again, this could be a very important feature for you, depending on how you're using Excel. Next, we have Manage Workbook. This is important if you're working on a document and suddenly it crashes. You could go here to recover unsaved workbooks. Let's say Excel crashes for some reason, or your computer gets shut down accidentally or runs out of power. Instead of just losing your work, you can try going here to recover unsaved workbooks. We have a button to reset the changes pane, and we also have browser view options. Pick what users can see when this workbook is viewed on the web. So if I click there, I can choose the sheets that will be shown when the workbook is viewed in the browser. I could say the entire workbook, or I could say specific sheets. I only have one sheet in this case. Or I could say items in the workbook. In this case, that's not applicable. Over here at the right, I have some properties for this workbook that I'm in. The size of the workbook, the title. I could give it a title if I want to here. I could add a tag, a category. It tells me when it was last modified, when it was created, when was it last printed, who the author of the workbook is, and who modified it most recently. You can also open the local file location for this workbook. So if it's saved to your computer, you could open the location of the workbook to see where it is, what subfolder it's in, or things like that. We also have a link that says Show All Properties. When you click that, it gives you even more detail about your workbook. For example, now I could specify a manager for this project and the status of the project, etc. Okay, next let's move here to the left and let's look at the Save button. Guess what? It's exactly what you would expect. When you go to the Backstage view and click Save, it simply saves your project. Now, if it's your first time saving your project, it's going to do a Save As. But if you've saved your project before, clicking Save is just a quick save. Okay, speaking of Save As, let's try that option. When we click Save As, typically Excel will take you to the place where you saved most recently, but you can also choose a different location, whether on this computer or in the cloud. You can then browse around by double-clicking to open folders or browsing down the list of options, and then just click Save. Now, there are some hidden, powerful features in this Save As window. For example, here, underneath the name of this workbook, I have the ability to click and change the file type from being a typical .xlsx file, an Excel workbook file. I could change it to a macro-enabled workbook. If you don't know about macros, you really need to watch my tutorial on macros. I have several videos on that topic, but in order to make this file macro-friendly, I should save it as a macro-enabled workbook. So that's a powerful option that's hidden in this dropdown. There are other powerful options, including single file web page or an Excel template. You can make your own Excel templates this way, or even a macro-enabled template. You could save your workbook as an older Excel file, for example, Excel 97 to 2003. You could save it as a CSV file. That would make it compatible with many other programs in addition to Microsoft Excel. One of my favorite options in this list is to save your workbook as a PDF. So that's what I'll choose, and I'll click Save, and there is my workbook as a PDF. And it's downloaded to my computer. I could click this button to download it again. I could click here to print. Of course, these are Google Chrome options, so it may look a little different for you if you don't use Chrome. I'm going to jump back to the File tab, the Backstage view, and Save As. So definitely be aware of these Save As options. Next, I'm going to move down here to the Print button. When I click print, I get a print preview here at the right. I get a big print button and a number of copies, and it's just what you would expect. Maybe I want 5 copies. I could click print, and it should print them out if I'm connected to a printer. Now, right now, I'm set to use the Microsoft Print to PDF printer. This is a virtual printer. It just turns this document into a PDF. So if I want to print with an actual physical printer, I would need to add a printer, set it up, and I don't have a printer here with me. And then once I have that set up, I could print the workbook on paper. You can also choose some settings like print active sheets only, print the entire workbook, only print the selection that you've clicked and dragged to highlight, print specific pages. Do I want to collate the printouts? Do I want to print in portrait or landscape orientation? What size of paper am I going to use? What are my margins? And what about scaling? Do I want to shrink all of the workbook to fit on one page, or no scaling at all, or these other options? We also have 2 links to be aware of. The printer properties link that helps you adjust your printer options, and page setup. And that takes me to the page setup options and tools that I've shown you in other videos in this series. Again, once you're finished looking at the print options and changing the settings, just click print and you should get a printout. Okay, let's move down to share. Share is a great option if you need to send your workbook to other people on your team or family members, friends, anyone working with you on a workbook. Now, instead of sharing the document so that they can work on it with you in the cloud, sometimes it's better just to attach a copy of the workbook. So I could attach an Excel workbook to an email that would be sent to my colleague, or I could send it as a PDF. Now, the difference between sharing a workbook and just attaching it is if you attach a workbook and send it to a colleague and they make changes to it, you won't see those changes. They'll have their own copy that they work with independently from you. If instead you share it through the cloud, like using OneDrive, for example, it's possible for you both to be working on the same workbook and you could see each other's changes and contributions. All right, so those are the differences between those 2 really good share options that we have. Next, let's look at export. Now, I already showed you that you can save as a PDF, let's say, or an Excel 97 workbook file type. But if you go to export, it's kind of a cleaner, easier, simpler way to create a PDF for people to view. Going back to export, you can also change the file type of your document. Again, this is similar to some of those other options that I showed in the Save As button. Let's move down to Publish. And Publish enables you to publish the data in your workbook to Power BI. If you're interested in learning about Power BI, please send me a message in the description below this video, and I'll consider making a video on that topic. I don't know how many of you would be interested in that topic, but if there is a lot of interest, let me know. Next, we have a close button, and it's just what you would expect. You click that, and it's going to try to close your workbook. It's going to ask you to save if you haven't saved. I'm just going to click cancel. Okay, we're almost done with the Excel File tab and the Backstage view. In the lower left corner, we have 2 very important buttons. We have the Account button, and this will show you the user information, who's signed in to Excel. You can change your photo if you want, put a photo of you there. You can also sign out. Let's say it's time for another user to be signed in. Go ahead and sign out or switch the account so that they can be the ones that are shown as using Excel. It would tap into their OneDrive accounts and other Microsoft accounts. We have a button for account privacy. If I go to Manage Settings, it'll open up to tell me about privacy for this account. In these account settings, I can also set an office background, let's say Circuit, and I can also change from a colorful office theme to a dark gray theme. You can see what happened there. There's also a black theme, white theme. I'm just going to switch back to colorful. It brings back the nice dark green color. Underneath the Office theme options, you'll see a list of connected services. Here's my OneDrive account, another OneDrive account that I use, a Microsoft Sites account that I'm connected to, And I could add other services here, and I can also remove certain services that I may not want anymore. Here in the right column on the account page, you'll see what subscription you have, if any, what products are contained in that subscription. You can manage your account, switch its license, update the license, all those kinds of account level features and settings you can do here. Next, we have Office and Microsoft 365 updates. There's some update options, and you can click here on the button to update immediately. Let's say you know there's a feature that's missing or that's been changed or updated. You can click Update Now, and Microsoft will check to see if you're up to date, and if you're not, it'll start downloading the updates and preparing to update your Excel. Underneath that, we have an About Excel button. It shows you what your license is and your session ID and other information about Excel. Finally, we have a What's New button. And again, there are other ways to learn what's new in Excel. Check out my video on the Help tab and ribbon, for example. But this File, Backstage View, and Account button, that's another way to find out what's new in Excel. All right, we're on to the last button in the Backstage view, and that is Options. When you click on Options, it takes you to just hundreds of different options that you can change that will affect how you experience Microsoft Excel. Notice what it says here. These are general options for working with Excel. You can change some aspects of the interface in Excel. When you create new workbooks, what do you want the default font size to be? What do you want the default font type to be? What's the username of the account user? Here's our Office theme options again. There's our privacy settings, startup options, all sorts of things. We also have options for formulas, for data, proofing, like autocorrect. There are some really important options here to look into. What about your save options? We have accessibility options, advanced options. You can customize the ribbon and the quick access toolbar. You can manage your add-ins here as well. And we have a Trust Center and some Trust Center settings, so you can look through those as well. I'm going to cancel out of those options, but those options in the File tab, in the Backstage view, those are some pretty powerful options that you can access and change and adjust as you're using Microsoft Excel. So as I've shown in this video, the Excel File tab and the Backstage view is really important. It's often overlooked. Many people only use it to save and open their files and maybe export a file now and then. But this Backstage view, if you use it fully, really enhance your use of Microsoft Excel. I hope you'll watch my other videos in this series about the Excel tabs and ribbons. For now, I hope you found this video to be helpful. If you did, please like, follow, and subscribe. And when you do, click the bell and you'll be notified when I post another video. If you'd like to support my channel, consider becoming a member of the channel by clicking the Join button. You'll get some nice features and be able to learn even more about technology, and you'll learn more about my channel and have access to nice additional features. You could also support my channel by clicking the Thanks button below the video, or you could support me through my Patreon account or by buying channel merch, and you'll see information about those options in the description below the video. Those options help me to continue to make these educational videos for my audience. Thank you so much.